All right. Well, good evening. How's everyone doing this evening? Well, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. My name's Rebecca Zito. I'm the Senior Manager of Public Affairs for the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. And I'm joined tonight by a few of my colleagues who have been working extensively on the Wightman Park Stormwater project. And since we have a small group, I'm going to ask you to come off mute and please introduce yourselves. Both want to give the project team a chance to introduce themselves and then also our attendees. So Barton, do you want to kick it off?
Yes, good evening. I'm Barton Kirk. I'm an ecological engineer with Ethos Collaborative. We were the project design lead on the Wightman Park Phase 1 and Phase 2 stormwater improvements.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Wada. I was the project manager on the project with PWSA.
My name is Ben Grunauer. I'm engineer with PWSA, assisted Sean in management activities.
Hi, I'm Elaine Henricks. I work in PWSA Public Affairs and I help with communications for stormwater projects.
And Eleanor, why don't you go next? Thank you for coming onto video. It's nice to see your face.
Well, I'm Eleanor Mayfield. It looks like I'm the community representative that's that's joined in tonight. I live about 2 blocks away from Wightman Park. I actually live on Northumberland Street, so I'm outside of the direct area where the stormwater management project has been going on, but it's very close by. So I've been taking an interest in it. So,
great.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate you taking the time tonight. Sharon or David?
Hello, this is Sharon. Sorry, I'm going to hold off on the viewing because I'm kind of in transit at the moment. But I'm Sharon Amick and I'm the executive director at the Carriage House Children's Center at the Wightman School building across from the park.
Thanks for being here. It's nice to almost see you again.
Yes, I'll try to get on video, but I'm actually in transit and then I'm going to manage kind of 2 meetings back to back. So,
Got it.
but I'm glad to be here.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm David Guttridge. I live in Solway Street between Murray and Shady.
Fabulous. So you've seen a lot of the construction.
Indeed, yes.
All right. Well, I appreciate you all taking the time this evening, coming together to talk about these next and final steps, hopefully final steps of the Wightman Park Stormwater Project. The purpose of our meeting tonight is really in response to the concerns we heard from residents, businesses, and others within the project area about pedestrian safety. And that really started to, we really started to hear that after the stormwater planters were constructed. Several residents and others expressed concerns about their depth and the possibility of passersby potentially not noticing them or potentially falling into the planters. So we wanted to be responsive to your concerns around pedestrian safety. The Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority really does strive to be a good community partner. And we want to leave a neighborhood better than where we found it after when one of our projects are built. And so to meet you where you are, we are going to go ahead and proceed with the fabrication and installation of a low-lying fence around the planter areas throughout the project area. And so some of the objectives that we hope to accomplish this evening is to provide an overview, just a brief reminder of the Wightman Park Stormwater projects. Each of these happened in 2 separate phases that took place over a number of years. So we just really want to remind people about why the projects were constructed in the first place. And then we will go ahead and present a recommended style for the fence and hopefully gain community consensus on that style. And that's really the crux of the community of the purpose of the meeting tonight, is really to try to come to some type of understanding and agreement on the fence that will be installed. We'll go ahead and review the next steps and then proceed to answer any questions that that you may have. So with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Barton, who will provide some of the background on the project.
So I know all of you are very familiar with the project and the project location. Obviously, it centers around Wightman Park in Squirrel Hill, and the project itself originally focused on the park and the sort of the redesign of the park itself, but expanded as stormwater became a focus of the park redesign and reconstruction, expanded to the project to include several blocks out in sort of the expanding radius outside of the park itself, extending first to the intersection of Solway and Negley, but also extending an additional block to the intersection of Woodmont Street and Negley, as well as the intersection of Murray and Solway. So the Stormwater project actually captures 28 acres of neighborhood upstream or up gradient of the park itself. If you can go to the next slide. So the first phase of the Wightman Park Stormwater project involved the creation of the integration of very large scale stormwater capture and storage facilities within the park and integrated into the park itself. This is sort of expressed at the surface as a large rain garden that's at the heart of the park. Stormwater is from the surrounding neighborhood is brought into that rain garden, and as it fills up, it drains down, the stormwater drains down into large subsurface storage containers that were constructed underneath the baseball field and underneath the playground. So the park itself is capable of capturing almost 500,000 gallons of stormwater for every rainfall event, 1.5 inches or greater. So there's a significant amount of stormwater that is held in this park. But in order for that water to get to the park, the phase 2 of the project, go to the next slide, consists of a series of stormwater planters that collect that stormwater off of the street and convey it all the way to the park. So this is how we're able to capture that full 28 acres of neighborhood. And the idea is that these stormwater planters capture the frequent smaller rainfall events up to 1.5 inches. And then for events that are larger than that, it actually works in concert with the existing combined sewer system below ground. And so in very large events, the two work together to help manage and address localized flooding. The stormwater planters at the surface help to actually provide relief to the existing storm sewers below and help to reduce combined sewer overflows and help to prevent basement backups and localized flooding. Some of the other benefits of these planters, particularly the ones that provide where we have bump outs. So pedestrian safety was an express goal of this project right from the beginning. So one of the practices that the city is using citywide to improve pedestrian safety at intersections is to provide bump outs, which shorten the distance that pedestrians have to cross within the travel lane. And so providing more pronounced crosswalks, shorter distances, as well as improved ADA ramps at all of these intersections where we're integrating the stormwater infrastructure were efforts to improve pedestrian safety. Also, the raised crosswalk, there's a mid-block crossing at the carriage house at the old Wightman School, crossing the street from the carriage house to the park is a raised crosswalk, which also serves to improve pedestrian safety and pedestrian crossing. So all of these features together were designed to improve both stormwater management and pedestrian safety. But at the same time, there have been expressed concerns about the depth of the planters, and part of the reason that the planters are as deep as they are is to provide the capacity for the stormwater conveyance, and also being able to provide continuous conveyance to the park. So it's not that the planters are completely full of water, but they need to be at an elevation that allows that water to convey to the park.
Are there any questions about the backgrounds of the design at this point? Or the project itself? If not, Ben, if you want to move on to the portion
Yeah,
pertaining
you
to
can go to
fence.
the next slide. I can start talking about the fence. So when looking at fences, we had a bunch of considerations in mind, what would be amicable for pedestrian safety, PWC's ease of maintenance, the durability of the materials, and if it's constructible, and the costs. And just to give some further background, PWC researched and reached out to multiple different manufacturers, and due to all the economic and supply chain related issues, either caused by COVID or the economy, it was very difficult to get responses from these fencing manufacturers. So we ended up with very limited options, but we gotta work with what we got here. So we can go to the next slide for our recommendation on what we've selected to install. It's 24 inches high and will be more than 1,200 feet of fence going along all the planter guards. It's constructed of steel tube posts, pickets, securing pickets. It's going to be post mounted. It's going to be painted black. This is what we selected based on price and ease of manufacturing and ability to actually get this on site. And that being said, this is the most accessible option for PWSA, and it still is going to take 12 weeks to manufacture. I just want to be very clear, this design has no sharp edges on it, no points. It's all rounded curves and has the ball top at the point. The cost estimate was ranging around, at the time when we received the cost estimate, it's around $150,000, but that estimate has since expired and we need to get a new one. So it's only expected to increase in price. You can go to the next slide, kind of blows up the image here on the slide. That being said, the fences are going to be kind of closed in with just a chain link on the ends. So for ease of access for maintenance. I know previous discussions, there was concerns about inside and outside mounting. Our maintenance crews really did not want to have it inside mounted because it limited their access to get a excavator in there or a backhoe in there needed if required. I know there's concerns over car doors opening. We evaluated the difference in distance if it was inside or top mounted, and it was only 2 inches, and there's a 2-inch difference for the car door. Given the buffer, wouldn't end up really making a difference if car doors were going to open into it or not. That being said, does anyone have questions about the render? I know the render itself is a little sharp, but like the actual model, there's no sharp edges to it. All right, we can move on if there's no questions.
Can I just ask where all the fence is going? Okay, so that's probably going to show us.
Yeah,
where-
that's the next slide.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so detail one, the first rectangle in the middle there is on Solway Street from Wightman Park Street to the crosswalk. You can kind of see the red outlines of where it's going around those planters, kind of at the edge near the intersection and then along in front of the school. And that continues in detail two to the next intersection. It's all would go around the one side of facing the inside of the sidewalk at that intersection. And then also it'd be on the insides of the sidewalk, as you can see in detail 3 and 4 on the Solway Street and Murray and the Murray and Woodmont Street intersections.
So the fence itself would be installed at all of the intersections where bump outs were constructed, and we
Yeah.
have the stormwater planters.
Yeah, just one clarification that it's on the sidewalk side of the bump outs, on the
Yeah.
street facing side, it would remain open.
Yeah, but in front of the school, we have it enclosed.
Correct.
Wait, so the fencing is just going to be on one side, is that correct?
Yeah, the sidewalk, the pedestrian facing side at those intersections.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Where there is a dedicated step out zone, where cars park, there will be fencing on both sides. But where there is no car parking, the fencing will only be on the sidewalk side, if that makes sense.
Excuse me, when there are two fences parallel to each other, will they be joined together? The photograph seems to show a chain.
Yeah, the chains will be there to maintain access into the planters for, if we need to replant things, need to dig something up, general weeding and litter pickup, things like that.
Right. Wouldn't it be better to have a gate?
It's an option. The manufacturer didn't really offer any gates in their product list. We can look into that. We can raise that question again.
All right.
Gates
I
would be
think-
substantially more expensive.
Would they?
Well, if the chain is adequate, then maybe we could just have the posts and chains.
Okay.
Chain, post and chain's not going to be adequate. It's going to
And I think once people see that installed, they'll say, well, my children can still fall down through the chain.
Perhaps there's an option to add kind of like a bar across that lifts out like a gate, but not a whole gate. That might be a compromise.
And we do need to have some openness to this because there is maintenance involved in each of these planters. And there's already very limited space within the planter when it's surrounded by the fence on either side. So my thought is that a gate would probably eliminate some of that side to side space that's available. So that, I think is one of the other reasons why the chain seemed like a good accommodation, was to make sure that we could provide the access that our crews need to get into to maintain the planters themselves. I mean, we're essentially building a cage around the planters, and there is a maintenance requirement that we have to meet so that they continue to function properly.
The chains that are shown there in this, and this is just a rendering, but the chains that are shown there are hung fairly loose in that picture. They certainly could be provided with installed with a more taut chain, and I could see the possibility of more than one if that helped to reinforce its function as a deterrent to climbing over.
Yeah, I think the fence is good because it's got vertical bars, and that means it cannot be climbed.
Yeah,
If you have 3 rows of chain, that will be very tempting to climb on. And basically, I don't think the chain is going to prevent people falling into the planter.
Or for a child getting in there.
Children and pet dogs could still quite easily tumble in. I agree. I
Okay.
guess I think more about dogs than, I mean, children are usually under the control of an adult, but dogs are not, and dogs should be, but they aren't necessarily always.
yeah. No, we understand your concern. We can, how many openings are there, Barton? There'd probably be, what, 4?
Yeah, it's at each of the crossings. So I don't know exactly off the top of my head. There's obviously the mid-block crossing here, and I think there's
Maybe 1,
maybe a
2,
total of 8.
6 or 8.
Yeah.
okay. Like I said, the manufacturer didn't provide any alternatives to the chain, but we can bring that up again and see if they have different options. If you have, I know you're concerned if you add another chain, it's almost inviting to climb, but we could see if there's a compromise in between those two, between a whole gate and the chain, that will diminish any potential climbing. Do you guys have any more questions about the fence or the locations? So we can move on to next steps.
So is 2 feet high enough?
Should be. It should
2
come up
feet.
to around the, lower thigh or knee.
Mhm.
It's definitely
I
high
mean-
enough for children.
It's going to be mounted on top of the curb, so looking at upwards of 30 inches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was measuring 24 inches from the floor, which didn't seem very high, but
The fence, the temporary fence that's currently out there is 24 inches as a reference.
okay.
For planter fencing, anywhere from 12 to 24 inches is typical.
In this type of a location?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have a rendering of what this would look like with the fencing just on one side?
This is the only location where we generated a rendering. We don't have a rendering for the other planters at this time.
When you say 24 inches is normal for a planter, is that a planter that is full of earth or a planter that has a drop?
This is specific for stormwater planters
Okay,
that
thank you.
has a drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all stormwater planters do have planter fencing, though. It's actually fairly atypical that they do. These are on the deeper end of the spectrum. The planters can't be any deeper than 30 inches, in which case a fence is actually required. But 30 inches or less fencing is not required. But where it is provided, it's typically ranges between 12 and 24 inches.
Thank you.
All right, Rebecca, do you want to take into the next steps?
Yeah, if there's no other questions at this point, I can jump to that slide. All right, so getting from this meeting to getting the fence installed is going to be a bit of a process. There are extensive requirements that we do need to meet in order to get it approved. And that starts with going through the Art Commission process. So in order to do that, we do need to have a meeting with the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and then also present this proposal to the Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition in January. The Arts Commission does require that we meet with the registered community group within the neighborhood where the project is taking place. So that's why the meeting with the Urban Coalition is necessary. And then we also do need to get letters of support from representatives within the project area, possibly the council office, just to show that there is community support for this direction of the installation of the fence. Once those requirements are met, we'll schedule the presentation to the Art Commission, and then it does need to make its way to City Council for final and ultimate approval. That timeline is still a bit unknown because Mayor Gainey has made some changes to the Art Commission. I do think that there are all new members that he'll eventually appoint. So we are likely having to wait until some of that dust settles before we can even get to the Art Commission. But this first section can happen independently of that. Construction, we're looking to be able to start this at some time next year. The temporary fencing, however, will remain at the carriage house until we are in a position where we can begin construction. So like I said, it's an extensive process, but we are committed to getting this fence installed and meeting your interests to ensure that there is safety around the stormwater planters, but it will take a little bit of time before we get to that point. So if anyone has any other questions, I'd be happy to address those.
On the street at the moment, they have those white posts, and that they come from the little curb as well. Do you have a rendering which shows how those posts will be in the future?
So will those bollards remain?
Yeah, so the reflective bollards, I don't know this with 100% certainty, but I believe that they are, all of the reflective bollards would remain because they would not interfere with the fence. But that's a good question. We don't have a rendering of that, but generally those reflective delineators are only on the street side of the planters where parking is not permitted. And so those would not be the curbs where the fencing would be installed.
Okay, right. Yes, that's true.
So essentially, the fence will be the opposite side of the delineators.
Yeah.
Which would be on the sidewalk side.
Right.
That's at each intersection.
Yeah. Thank you.
One thing, and Rebecca, I apologize for not bringing this to your attention earlier, but I did just learn today that there may be some significant changes in the process related to the Art Commission, so that might affect that timeline.
Okay.
Yeah, just that was news to me today.
Good to know. Yeah, that's not surprising to hear, but we'll revisit that and
Yeah.
follow it in the way we're supposed to.
Rebecca, can you speak to the scheduled maintenance of the stormwater planters? How often and what is to occur throughout the year?
Yeah, I can start with what I know about it, and then John and Ben, if you want to jump in to fill in anything I'm missing, that would be great. So for this first year of the project being fully installed, our construction contractor is doing the maintenance. Once that 1 year window closes, then the maintenance will go to PWSA crews. Right now, all of the stormwater maintenance is outsourced to a firm called Landforce. And they, I believe, typically go to each of our projects about once a month to do the maintenance that's necessary.
Yeah, just adding to that, you may have seen some, pile up of, leaves and debris recently. The contractor who's under the maintenance bond who constructed the project was waiting until, there was final leaf fall before getting everything out in one scoop. But once that maintenance bond is expired, PWSA will take over and it'll be, a monthly visit.
Do we know that for sure it'll be a monthly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that sometimes, I mean, I get the whole waiting until all the leaves fall, but what happens, we've just seen that they get clogged. So when there is rainfall, we see the water sitting a lot longer.
Yeah.
In the planters, which that's what kind of makes me nervous a little bit, is having, drownable water sitting
No, we
and not able
understand
to
your
go
concern.
through. Yeah.
And if you see things backing up like that, or think that something needs tended to, you can always call our emergency or our dispatch. We have a 24/7 emergency dispatch line, and they take all sorts of calls throughout the day. And we do encourage people to call us, like when they see a storm drain covered with leaves and things like that. If
Okay.
there is something in their neighborhood related to water infrastructure that needs tended to, we do really appreciate people calling, because things happen outside of our maintenance windows. We can't,
Sure.
we try to get to the city, all throughout the city as much as we possibly can, but we need eyes and ears on things as well. So if folks are willing to be an ambassador and give us a call when something needs to be taken care of, please do.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we've even purchased those long arms with the things on the end, the grass on the end, to just get debris and trash and bottles of, water, like that kind of stuff, just to kind of keep it clean and looking good. But yeah, when it gets to a point where it's a little bit more than us reaching
Yeah.
over and grasping some litter, I think, so that's good to know that we can call.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for taking the initiative to do that. We do appreciate it.
So I have a question. Is the idea that eventually the plantings will grow up so that the planters look more filled in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a growing period between when we planted them and when they're fully established. But kind of that volumetric space within the planter will start to kind of fill up for sure. And if there's any plants that don't make it through the winter, our maintenance contract also handles, replacements and stuff like that.
They must be pretty hardy plants.
Yeah, the plants are specifically selected to, thrive in one of those, in like the stormwater inundated soil.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're selected to be both drought tolerance, water tolerance, and salt tolerant.
Yeah, okay. Rebecca, will you be sending out updates on the meetings with the, like you said, that there was you're going to be meeting with Domi and then with the Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition?
Yeah, yes, we'll send a summary of tonight's discussion. Then as things continue to progress, we'll keep everyone informed through our constant contact mailing list, which I think all of you are already on. So definitely keep an eye out for those emails. We might be, well, we'll take a look at the requirements for the art commission, and then reach out if we need to get any type of letter of support or anything like that from any of you. But yeah, we will continue to provide updates. Probably as we reach milestones and when there's something to tell you. I think that we were trying to do like bi-weekly construction updates throughout the project, so it won't have that level of frequency.
So will there be an opportunity for the community members to participate in these meetings, like with Domi and with the Urban Coalition?
The Urban Coalition meetings are definitely open to the public, so we'll let you know when we have that scheduled and when it's taking place. So you can certainly come to that meeting. The meeting with Domi, those are coordination meetings with Domi and with the city. Like those are usually a little bit more like tactical, a little bit more technical. I guess if there is a representative that would like to be part of that, we can certainly make way to meet that interest. But usually our meetings with the city are a little bit more internally focused.
Okay. I guess I'm sort of disappointed that there aren't more community members on this attending this meeting tonight, and it would be good to provide other opportunities for people to participate, since hopefully there may be people who just for whatever reason couldn't make it tonight.
Well, we'll post the recording of the meeting and then share out the summary to the full mailing list.
Okay.
So usually that's how we do pick up others who weren't able to participate in the meeting. I have noticed that our meeting recordings are watched. I was sort of surprised to see that, but people are definitely interested. So just because they're not here doesn't mean that they won't pick up the information in another way.
Right. Okay, good.
And when we're meeting with entities, we'll definitely let each of you know.
Okay, thanks.
Do you think when you send email, you could send the sketch with the details of where the red line shows where the fence is going to be, and perhaps the rendering of the photograph that we saw? Could we send that for people who don't want to listen to the whole thing?
Yeah, we can definitely send the slides.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Is it all right to show that photograph to other people?
Yes, yeah, it would definitely be. If there's neighbors who you want to share this information with, or others who have expressed concerns, yeah, certainly share that information. We'll we can put it on the webpage, the project webpage, when we get back to the office tomorrow, and we'll get both the presentation and the meeting recorded, posted tomorrow morning.
Sounds like a great idea. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Right, so everybody is feeling pretty comfortable with the direction of the fence style that we presented this evening.
Yes, I mean, I've got no idea about the art commission and what they're going to do, but that's fine. I'm happy. Except for the chain thing.
Well, we'll look to see what alternatives there are to that.
I'm still a little concerned about I know they're not jaggedy points, but and I understand it's a lot more expensive, I think is what you shared, having the rounded tops. But yeah, yeah. And that they can grab a hold of them. I think that was the other thing, that people with the rounded tops, they would grab a hold. I'm just hoping that, yeah, that won't be an issue, but I understand the decision.
Yeah, Sharon, we understand where you're coming from as far as, you know, aesthetic value, and we recognize that as important. You know, in our decision to pick this one, it wasn't taken lightly. We understood that, you know, it does match a little more, but you know, internally looking at, you know, PWSA's like ratepayer funds, we didn't find it, you know, responsible to just tack you know, $30,000 to $50,000 just to get that aesthetic value from the fence. And
I wasn't saying that because I thought it should match carriage house. No,
Okay.
no. I was just feeling because it's at a hip level or middle thigh level, if somebody would go over, that there is, even though they're a flattened point, there is still a projection coming up out, and you know, so, but hopefully that won't happen.
Eleanor, any last comments?
No, I think I'm okay for now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we really do appreciate your time this evening, and we will definitely post the presentation and the recording of the meeting tomorrow. We'll look into what alternatives there might be to the installation of the chain. And then when we share out the summary, we'll also make sure to include the images of the rendering, so folks have an idea of both where they're being installed and also the style of fencing that's going forward. And we'll keep you posted on the meetings that we'll have with other entities that are part of the decision-making process.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so
Thanks.
much. And
Thanks, guys.
Good evening.
have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.